Parker is planning to just meet fire with fire, stand in the middle of the ring and bang it out with Daniel Dubois. So I tracked down a couple of interviews with Andy Lee instead, and in this one with Radio Raheem on Seconds Out, he goes into the strategy. But you have to bear in mind, of course, that you take things that fighters and trainers say before a fight with a pinch of salt, because in a lot of cases, you're not going to want to give away your game plan. You're going to want it to be a surprise to your opponent. Now, sometimes fighters and trainers do tell you exactly what they're going to do, and they go in there and execute that very thing. But as I say, you got to take it with a pinch of salt, because you never know for sure whether it's misdirection or not. But let's, for argument's sake, take Andy Lee at his word. The strategy he laid out was a lot more nuanced and complex than Spencer Oliver claimed it to be. So Andy Lee says, yes, in the early rounds, they do plan to stand with Dubois and hit him with something big to get his respect, so he doesn't just steamroll Joseph Parker. And I do think that's an important thing to do if you're actually going to win the fight. I think you will have to win his respect. That is, if you don't have the height and reach to do what Joe Joyce did, because Joyce just kept Dubois on the end of a jab, frustrated him, and then made him quit late. Parker doesn't have that type of height and reach, so Dubois is going to be able to get to him more easily than he got to Joyce. In any event, Andy Lee says Parker's going to try to get Dubois' respect. He's not just going to move the whole night, but there will be an element of moving. He'll move at points, he'll stand and trade at points, and most crucially, according to Andy Lee, they plan to take Daniel Dubois' jab away. Andy Lee, much like myself, believes that Dubois is one of these people who gets anxious when he can't land certain punches that he's used to landing. And in my view, when he can't land consistently enough, he starts to get anxious. And that, I think, is what led to him quitting against Joe Joyce and quitting against Alexander Usyk. He wasn't landing the shots that he's normally able to land, and it makes him uncomfortable. So Andy Lee and Joseph Parker plan to take away his jab, which is a big part of Daniel Dubois' game. He sets everything up off the jab. They plan to take that away, and he spoke about the things that they're going to do with footwork and head movement and blocking and parrying. And in doing so, they then reduce Daniel Dubois' power shots as well, because of the way he likes to set things up from the jab. So it's all very logical. It sounds great, but as Anthony Joshua found out, it's easier said than done, because AJ tried to stand with Dubois in the early going, land a big shot and get his respect. But what he found was that Dubois is faster than he looks. You see, Dubois has maybe got average hand speed for a heavyweight. Not great hand speed, just kind of average hand speed. It's not bad, it's not good, it's right there in the middle. But he's got quick feet, and he fights off this bounce, Daniel Dubois. And so what happens is, when he's coming forward at you, he's got that average hand speed, but fast foot speed. So the foot speed accelerates the hand speed because he's punching at the same time as moving in. And this is why on camera, on television, Dubois doesn't appear to be that fast. But when you're in there with him and he's got them quick feet and he's bouncing in fast and throwing a shot at the same time, as I say, it accelerates everything. So he's faster than he looks, and he runs red lights. Dubois is a fighter who doesn't like to just throw one or two shots. He likes to throw 3s, 4s, and 5s. He's relentless with it. See, when you're in there with a guy who throws 2 or 3 shots at a time, you can slip, and counter. But with Dubois, he's throwing 4, 5, 6 shots at you. Unless you are Floyd Mayweather, or unless you are Alexander Usyk, right? You're not going to be able to slip and counter them all. So if the first 2 or 3 shots miss from Dubois, or you blocked them or slipped them, the ones coming after that are going to hit you. And he's willing to take that risk. He's willing to take that gamble, Daniel Dubois. This is what makes him dangerous offensively. Can Joseph Parker stand up to that kind of assault? I'd say Parker's got a better defense than Anthony Joshua, Dubois' last opponent. In fact, I'd say Parker's got a better defense than Hrgovic and certainly Jarrell Miller as well. But he's no Alexander Usyk defensively, is he, Joe Parker? So Dubois might have to work a bit harder to pin Joseph Parker down and unleash those combinations on him than he did with his last 3 opponents. But I go back to what I've pointed out before regarding Joseph Parker. Whenever he's been taken into the trenches, he's come off second best. He was taken into the trenches by Dylan White, came off second best. He was taken into the trenches by Joe Joyce and came off second best. Joseph Parker is a tough guy. He's got a pretty good chin. He's got those fast hands. Not the biggest puncher in the world, but, there's some power there. And he's got a big heart. We've never seen Joseph Parker even come close to quitting in a fight, at least not that I've noticed. He'll take it all the way and get knocked out if it comes to it. We saw that against Joe Joyce. But there's a difference between being able to take a beating and not quit, and being a fighter who is tenacious offensively, even in difficult situations. And Joseph Parker just lacks that aggression. He always has his whole career. At the highest level, there's always been something missing. He never seems to take the bull by the horns in the big fights and really get his teeth into the fight. He almost seems to be happy to be a supporting actor rather than the star. Was that a lack of mental and emotional maturity in a boxing sense from Joseph Parker? Because different people mature at different rates. Some fighters, again, I'm talking about in a boxing sense, not in their personal life, some fighters are mature by the time they're in their early 20s, whereas other fighters don't come into their own until they're into their 30s. As far as their mindset, is Joseph Parker one of those? Are we going to see in the Dubois fight a level of viciousness from Joseph Parker that we've not seen before? I know some people are going to point to the Zhilei Zhang fight and the Deontay Wilder fight, but as Parker has admitted himself, both of those guys are low volume, older fighters. Very different to facing a 27-year-old Daniel Dubois, who's always had good stamina. I mentioned that in the post-fight video I did following his victory over Kevin Johnson. A lot of people weren't impressed by that performance, but I was, because of Dubois' stamina, because people were comparing Dubois going the distance against Kevin Johnson to the fact that AJ a couple years earlier had wiped Kevin Johnson out in 2 rounds. And it was saying, well, Dubois should have done a similar job, but instead he got taken to the cards. But again, my way of